Hello and welcome to the Justin Hamilton podcast. It's the second week of the new season. It's season 9, and we are welcoming back Wil Anderson for the 8 a.m. catch up. Why is it called that? Because we catch up at 8 a.m. That seems to be our regular time. And once upon a time, we caught up at 8 a.m. because we were still up. But things have changed. We've had a good night's sleep, and we touch base first thing in the morning. A really interesting chat, this one. Deliberately hadn't spoken to Wil in a while, and as you can well or will imagine, this conversation goes in lots of different directions while also keeping a through line that will make a lot of sense once you hear it. Before we go any further, just some quick reminders of things being a little bit different this season. I've released my first newsletter. It went out a week ago. It's going to be a bi-weekly newsletter, and in it, it will just keep you up to date with what's going on at Substack, what's going on over at Patreon, what's happening at YouTube, and possibly maybe a movie, book, recommendation, music, kind of whatever has taken my fancy that week. So if you would like to be able to keep up with things on a more direct basis rather than having to rely on whatever platform you're on, or let's be honest, I'm not on all of the platforms, or social media wise, that is, or even uh, really engaging that much with that part of the world. If you would like to know directly what's happening, especially when gigs and things like that are coming up, if you head to my website, justinhamilton.com.au, on the front page, you will find where you can sign up for the newsletter. And as I said, it'll just be bi-weekly. I don't want to be clogging up your inboxes with all my stuff. So it'll just be just a little reminder of what's going on. Maybe now and again, I'll send you one or two if there's something really special coming up. But the emphasis in that sentence will be on really. I will, as I said, I never want it to get to a point where you look in your email and go, God damn it, Hamo, why do you have to keep contacting me? So I'll keep it succinct and hopefully rare enough that when my name does pop up, you'll be like, oh, great. I wonder what he's been doing these last few weeks. Let's find out. So yes, you can find out all of that through the newsletter, and yes, and I'll be talking about the latest Substack that is going up this week, and what's happening over at Patreon. I put up a podcast from 2016. Everyone's doing the 2016, 2026 thing, and I went back to 2016, and I found Ben Elwood and I talking about a certain Donald Trump getting in for the first time. And while it is a interesting podcast about two people worrying about the future, there's something adorable about it in that we weren't worrying enough. Amazing. So that's the bonus podcast that you can find there recently, with stacks of other things. And over at YouTube, I also have my show Little Victories, as well as the visual component for this podcast. So heaps of stuff going on in my little world, and maybe you'll be interested in all of it, or maybe you'll be interested in some of it, or maybe you'll be interested in only one thing. And all of that is valid, and I'm wrapped if you're interested in one thing, to be honest. So thanks for listening. I'll pop back at the end of the podcast, but for now, let's bring in Wil Anderson for the 8 a.m. Went to the movies last night,
Oh yeah, what
and
did you say?
I went and saw Hamnet,
Oh yeah,
which is, for anyone who doesn't know, is a story about William
a
Shakespeare.
man who builds a net out of ham and then tries to go
And
butterfly hunting.
goes catching vegans. It's a very cruel film. um, it does sound a little bit like the what we would have had as the 80s porno for Hamlet in the back in the day when they had all those quick movies that would come out, those video nasties as they were.
Yeah, but it'd just be called something like Ham Let Me Suck Your Dick or whatever back in the day.
Don't you? Is there a part of you that feels like that the collapse of that industry has really taken away some uh, opportunities to make some serious money, just sitting in a corner coming up with the titles for things being produced?
I wonder if like is the funny porn a name like because everything's so yeah OnlyFans content and
Yeah.
short form content and stuff like that. Is the funny porn name title, the Lawrence of Arabia or whatever it might be, Edward Penis Hands, has that gone out of fashion or are they still making full length, funny titled porn movies? Or is that like been lost? Is there generations who don't know the joys of, because I think that was part of, I think was a marketing thing, but part of it was, I guess, making them more acceptable to be displayed in a video store, I reckon.
Oh
So
yeah.
if it looked a bit comical,
Yeah.
it didn't look as I don't know dirty or adult or
Yeah.
brown paper baggy, I guess.
Well, they used to get advertised in the newspapers. And I
Mm.
remember, after seeing Star Wars as a kid, and I'd, trawl through the newspapers back and get to the movie page because it was fascinating. You'd see all these films coming out. They'd have all these gritty black and white pictures. Sometimes they'd have a color picture if it was a really expensive movie coming up. And I said to Mum, can we go and see Flesh Gordon? And
Mm.
Mum had to explain to me, no, we can't see that one. We can see Flash Gordon if it ever comes out, but not Flesh Gordon.
I mean, Flesh like Gordon feels like something that must have been made in the porn parody world, you would have thought.
I have to say, you have brought back a lot of very happy memories for me because I remember laughing so fucking hard over Edward Penis Hands.
Like some of them were genuinely, I mean, because they're just so silly. I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna see if I can do a little Google while we are talking to each other
Yeah,
of funniest porn names and see if any of them still um like are being made, like if there's any modern movies that are being
yeah.
parodied, I guess is what I
Maybe
is
that's
what I'm
what.
looking for.
Well, I was while you were looking that up, I was talking to a comedian who was saying that OnlyFans in the UK is pumping money into comedy, and
Oh
they're
yeah.
and it's actually becoming a viable option for some comedians to have their specials up on their OnlyFans page. And they even had a competition recently that generated a lot of money. And it got me thinking. It was like, oh yeah, well, I guess that's it. Like one of my favorite movie critics has now got an OnlyFans page where you can sign up and get bonus material. And maybe that could be my thing. Maybe OnlyFans could be me doing one-man performances of famous movies while I wank.
I mean, do you have to have an OnlyFans element to it to like do the stand up, or is it just
I,
because they're trying to do like make people go, oh, this website isn't just about these sort of things.
yeah,
Like so, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is. I get the impression that it is, trying to broaden it, almost trying to find a way to compete with the YouTubes and things like that. But and by the way, when I make that suggestion of me doing that, that would only be the top tier. That wouldn't be for everyone to be able to access.
Well, I would have thought that like you just start with like because a lot of people are into feet or something, right? So
Yeah,
I think you just start Tim Minchin style,
yeah,
doing your stand up without shoes on.
yeah,
And so you're just in there. I mean, that just feels like an artistic choice, but you're
yeah,
already like luring in some people who just want to see some like,
yeah.
some feet.
And do you
And
just
then you
have the camera on your feet while you're doing the stand up? Like you don't even pan up?
I reckon that is a higher tier level.
Yeah,
The locked off cam, right?
yeah.
So you do your stand up and you've got
Is that Cam James on a specific camera?
yeah, we've locked him up, and he's on a camera, and we call it the locked off cam. And he's in a cage in the corner. He's agreed. He's getting
Yeah.
some of the cuts of the
Oh, yeah,
profits.
yeah. He's making money. It stops him from having to do a gig in Western Australia for miners for 2 weeks. He's happy.
And when we say for minors, we don't mean children's shows.
Oh, God, no. No, no, no. The ones that make a lot of money.
Look, I've got to say, it does feel like the porn parody is not as popular with modern day films as
Oh,
it has been. All the ones that seem to be coming up are your classic Shaving Ryan's Privates and,
yeah.
movies of that generation.
What a shame. Like imagine,
Mm.
imagine a Poppenheimer with
Oh,
a
yeah.
really tall glamazon woman, and when the nuclear explosion goes off, she just turns around and instead of quoting the Bhagavad Gita, turns around and says, "I've seen bigger bangs on Tyra Banks."
Yeah, see, I think that's the vibe, right? Like, I think if you called it, like, it'd always be called something like Poppenheiny, right? Like,
Yeah,
it would, so it wouldn't even be a perfect parody,
yeah,
and it'd be Poppenheiny, and they'd all
yeah,
be dressed as sexy scientists,
yeah,
and you thought the nuclear war was a big bag, and then
yeah.
like, you know, yeah.
All the Nazis are hot.
Hmm. I mean, I assume there was probably a Barbie one that
Right.
feels like it would have been the sort of thing that crossed over into that world. But what have been I mean, what are this year's, you're the people who you keep up with film and what the big movies are. Like, if we
Oh
were
yeah.
going into this year's Oscars, what are the
Well,
contenders and what? Mm.
surely, surely there would have been one bang after another.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, what is that movie actually called?
One battle after another.
Yeah, one blow after another, one
One
bang
blow.
after another. Like, you could have a whole series of those. Um,
Far out. Yeah, there's Hamnet. We've already kind of worked that out. What else is
what about Marty Supreme?
oh yeah. Yes.
Oh, Soup Cream?
Soup cream.
Marty Soup Cream?
Marty soup cream. I'm going to be the best fuck there's ever been. It's my calling.
I mean, a Safdie Brothers style porno, the most intense
Ah,
porn movie of all time.
all the way through it, you're going, I do not like
Just
this
like,
person, but they are
yeah,
compelling.
this is like a tribute to edging, right? I get it. The Safdies make edging style films.
But yeah, it's maybe I wonder if Edward Penis Hands was
Mm.
like was that right at the end where like they had cleverer titles when they were younger and then it's just like scissor hands, penis hands. Next.
Yeah, because it doesn't even really work as a pun, does it? They've
No.
just replaced the word scissor with the word penis.
Yeah, and I'm pretty certain I remember seeing the cover, and it literally was
Hmm.
a Johnny Depp guy with massive
I
penises on
mean,
his hands.
why would you go with a second draft?
No, this is done.
We're done, guys. I
Right,
don't know.
take lunch
You
off.
can, yeah, you guys can keep having this meeting, but you're not coming up with anything better than what we've come up with here.
It's so sad that's taken away. That is an art form that is gone.
Wow. Anyway, what did you say? I don't know why we got on. Oh, Hamnet.
Oh, Hamnet,
That's what you were
yes.
going to tell me. That's where we started this ridiculous thing. Hamnet.
So, which I thought was good. I thought it was pretty
Yeah.
good. I really enjoyed it. But it was funny talking afterwards to with my mate, and they were saying that especially online, which I have managed to really miss this, but people have been giving it trigger warnings. Oh, you gotta be really careful. This is going to happen, and you've got to be prepared for it. It's really sad. And yeah, the movie's sad, but it's not that sad. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that the subject matter wouldn't be in some ways triggering for people, but it just kind of spoke to this greater issue where I think everything has been dumbed down to such an extent that a movie that is sad comes with trigger warnings. And I think
Mm.
it's kind of, uh, it's taken away the complexities of what these things can be and what they should be. It's like I had a number of friends who didn't take their kids to see Superman last year because they thought it would be a bit too full on. And I find that fascinating because that was literally a movie about a guy who can't control his dog. And like when I was 8, Mum took me to see Gallipoli. And you know what I did at the end of that film? I fucking
Yeah.
cried so hard because they killed Mark Lee and spoilers. And
Spoilers for Gallipoli. Also, spoilers for Gallipoli, the event does not work out well for us.
I know, but we do get
We
a
w-
beach.
it will it will be embraced as a national iconic holiday and a
Yeah,
symbol of what we are. But
yeah.
if you look at the scoreboard that day, we did not do well.
No, no, no. We did not come back with the ashes. But
We are suffering an inglorious defeat. We are
yeah,
celebrating.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, brave soldiers doing their best,
yeah.
But yeah,
And that movie like ruined me, and also gave me a healthy level of racism towards the English, which came in handy
yeah,
for numerous Ashes
mm,
competitions. But you experienced it, and you cried, and you felt all these emotions, and then you got out of the cinema, and then you had a chat about it, and you discussed it, and you learned something
mm.
about history, and then because I felt bad and I was sad, Mum said, "Do you want some ice cream?" And I ate some ice cream, and Hamo was back.
I don't think we bring up Gallipoli enough in terms of our debate around the Ashes and our discussion about why we feel so passionate about the Ashes. In fact, I would like to bring it back into the actual conversations that the cricketers are having.
Right.
So, like, say for example, the English come out and they complain about the pitch conditions. I'd be like, yeah, still a bit better than that deck you sent us in first on in Gallipoli, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And just like
yeah, yeah,
literally keep saying that, never
yeah.
let it go.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just before the first ball is bowled, just put a bit of sand out there and say, try and
Mm.
run through that, mate, before you come
Yeah,
into bowl.
yeah, yeah. Why are our bowlers' runways run-ins uphill and in
Yeah,
sand?
yeah. And you're not quite sure where our batsmen are.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
But anyway, I just found it fascinating that we've kind of hit this point where
Mm.
something that is like, of course, it's designed to be sad, but it is what it is. Oh, have you got AI on your camera as well?
No, yes, I do. Anderson intelligence in
Yeah.
that I leaned forward and used my arm to readjust my screen so that I was more in the shot. I realized my head was kind of not
Yeah.
in the shot of the talking to you. I'd spent so much time trying to get my headphones to work beforehand. I'd absolutely not really looked at where I was on the screen.
I've worked out how to turn mine off because it was starting to bamboozle too many people, and I felt rude because it felt like something that should just bamboozle you.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, and I just wondered how you felt about that as well, because it's so it's like when we were kids, MASH
Mm.
was on Monday to Friday at 7 o'clock. And sometimes there were episodes that would come up and they'd wear dressing gowns and they'd play poker, and Klinger would try to eat a Jeep. And then the next episode would be in black and white, and it would be about, and there'd be no laugh track, and it would be about how terrible war is. And you just accepted all of it, and you just absorbed all of it. And now, if something like that happened, well, they wouldn't be allowed to do that because you're a comedy, so you're not meant to be producing that kind of television. But also, it would come with all sorts of trigger warnings.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Charlie and I were having this conversation the other day about when, and something you'll remember, but when Adric died on Doctor Who,
Oh my God. Yes.
and
It
how,
it ruined me. I just need to tell
yeah,
you, and I didn't even like the character, but
no.
his death was genuinely such a shock, to the extent that my mum came into the other room to find out what had happened. Like, what is going on? And then she was so confused because she was like, I'm pretty certain this character annoyed you.
Charlie remembered, and I couldn't remember this detail, but it doesn't sound incorrect.
Mm,
He remembered it was one of those episodes where they didn't play the music over the closing credits.
that's what I remember as well. Yeah.
Right, okay. And that really stuck in his mind as a
Yes.
child.
Yeah.
But we both had, that same strong reaction that you've just had to this moment. And part of it was because, particularly back in that day and age, where the first time we all experienced that was when it went out on television. There was no internet to go, oh, hey, you've got to go and see this thing, but be prepared. There's a big moment in this episode or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Something happens to one of the major characters in this episode. There was none of that. We just sat down to watch these shows. And then we didn't really know that like one of the main characters could die like that, particularly a younger
Yeah.
person. Like
Yeah.
this was a show for younger people, and the idea that a younger person. The great thing about Doctor Who was that anytime there was kind of like a death, it was quite protected, really, in a way, which was either they were aliens like so that there was some sort of like emotional distance you could put between yourself and the aliens.
Mm,
Or like even the doctor, when the doctor died, even though that was an intense thing, there was a regeneration process that
yeah,
they weren't really dead. But like there was no, oh no, it's okay. Adric escaped to the like the secret, blah blah blah, and everything was fine. You know, it was like, oh, hang on, wow,
yeah,
like wow, and like 40 years later or whatever, we still think about that. Like when we think about that, we are transported back to that moment, and I do
yeah,
wonder whether you get robbed of that sort of experience going into something not knowing what it was going to be like. We have a friend, Gatesy, Stephen Gates, our wonderful friend Stephen Gates, who even when he goes to the movies, refuses to watch the coming attractions, the previews,
oh
the
yeah, yeah,
trailers for films.
mate. It is one of the true insane joys of your life will be, even though Gatesy knows that he
Mm,
doesn't watch trailers, when
mm.
he suddenly realizes he has forgotten to prepare and he frantically searches for his earpods to put in so he can then look down and not experience any of it.
Yeah, so he will be, yes, literally with you in the cinema, trying to stuff things in his ears,
Yeah,
close his eyes
yeah,
so that he doesn't take in any information about anything that is coming up. And look, the method by which he does that, like watching Steve Smith bat for Australia, it
yeah,
is both compelling and hilarious all at once. And
yes,
the fact that it is hilarious uh, does not in any way rob from my love of him or admiration of him. It is just you can also recognize when something is a bit fun and funny.
yeah,
But the older I get, the more I realize that the truth behind what he is acting out in such a ridiculous manner is a compelling truth that he had stumbled on, I think, maybe before it's a discussion that the rest of us are having as a society now, which is have we robbed ourselves of the joy of surprise
yeah,
with all the preparation we do for every experience? We
yes,
are now able to go into every experience knowing so much about everything
yeah,
in any way, being prepared for it, being warned about it, having clues, having had the thing contextualized or discussed or whatever, or in the zeitgeist so much that by the time you get to it, you've just picked up incidentally. Like, I've not had one on purpose conversation about Hamnet with anybody until right now,
right.
until this conversation. And yet, I've got a real gist of what it is, who it's by, and what's going on in Hamnet just from living in the world for the last 2 weeks, right?
Right.
So it's rare that you get that opportunity. So there's a movie that I texted you about, an Australian documentary called The Golden Spurtle,
Yes.
which I went into as unprepared to see, like knowing what it was going to be, as anything that I've experienced recently.
Yeah.
And I
But
think
by
that
the way,
so,
dying for a porno back in the day.
oh, The Golden Spurt. That's
Yeah,
it. Like it's
that's it.
done.
Done. The guy who came up with Edward Penis hands, he's just taken another day off.
Yeah, and the golden spurtle is like a guy who's like in some. It'd be always some sort of because the spurtle is what they stir porridge with. If people
Yeah.
don't know, the spurtle. So the spurtle would be like a golden spurtle, like in a porn parody movie. I mean, it writes its like I mean, it really writes itself.
Yeah.
So it's a documentary about the a competition to like for the world championships of porridge making,
Yeah.
and they it happens in this tiny little town in Scotland that decided to just come up with a local event, and then the entire community embraced this local event, and uh, it follows the journey of some people who are competing in this event. And to give away too much more of it would be to rob people of. I want to tell people to go and see this movie. And I have been telling people to go to see this movie. And you've got to explain a tiny little bit of it to not put them off, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But you don't want to explain too much of it, because part of what I loved about the movie was not knowing about the movie when I went to see the movie.
Yes, yes. Getting back to the Gatesy of it all,
Yeah.
he is onto something, and it's I'm a little bit like a trailer is handy, especially if you've never heard of the movie. So if you see a
Yeah.
trailer and you go, "Oh, I'd like to see that," but for the majority of people who make the trailers out there or make movies, not everyone has final cut of their trailers. So sometimes you can't trust what the production company's going to do because they might be the ones who are giving away too much. So as soon as I see something once and I think I'm going to see that, I then completely disengage from the film
Mm.
and just wait for it to come out.
Yeah, you almost, I mean, this is like an increase in technology, not a, but if there were some sort of app, like, you know how you can get a social media blocker and these sort of things now. We've created
Mm.
problems and then solutions to the problems because
Yeah, that's what we do.
capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because of the world.
Yeah.
So we bring in some new technology that's meant to make things better. It comes with a range of problems, and then we sell you a solution to all those problems. The
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
Oh, and everything mostly. But if when you purchased a ticket to a movie or like downloaded the subscription to the thing or whatever, you go, okay, I want to watch Oppenheimer. I buy the ticket to Oppenheimer, and the ad blocker then blocks from your social media and your feed any more previews or information about Oppenheimer so that you can like not see anything until you
Yeah.
see the movie.
Yeah.
Like a spoiler-free kind of app.
Yeah. That's good. That's
Mm,
actually one I could get into.
right?
But yep, I've already made a hard decision on that.
Mm,
Block it, and then after
yeah.
you've seen the movie, unblock it, and then you can have all the information you want coming through.
Yeah.
I
That's the sort of spoiler warning that I need. You know,
Yeah.
I get the idea of a trigger warning in that I don't want somebody to walk into a situation that is going to upset them in a way that that experience was not meant to upset them. That makes sense to me, right? Like you're going to see a movie, and if there's something in that movie that will remind you of something that might bring up a big trauma in you and like ruin your entire day, I think there is some value in going. There are themes in this movie that might disturb people or whatever. And if you
Mm,
feel like you're someone, do some further investigation. But so much of it becomes spoilery, I think.
mm,
That's the problem. And the other thing is you never know what it is about something that is going to trigger you.
mm. Oh,
I
yeah.
know I know as someone who's been, I mean, just as an adult, it makes you nothing special, but if you live on this world for long enough, we all have our individual traumas, and what would trigger your trauma versus my trauma
Mm,
could be a very different thing. You could watch an entire show that is directly about the thing that you are going through, and then you let your guard down because they're telling a story about their puppy, and then their puppy dies at the end, and you're like, nah, you got me, that was the thing,
yeah.
wasn't looking for that, you know.
Yeah.
And that might not have been the thing that was in the trigger warnings
Yeah.
at the start. It might have been like, this show's about, like, you know, family violence, and you're like, that's okay, I've gone in and I've got my head around the fact that it's that, and then this other thing comes out and you're like, well, that's actually or they tell a lovely story about their grandpa, but your grandpa just passed recently, and that's the
Right.
thing that gets you. Like, the problem with it is not, because I think there's also a world in which where it's that conversation between how much do we give for Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have been talking about this in relationship to making a movie for Netflix versus making a movie for the cinemas,
Mm.
and how Netflix, like, that they want the plot basically restated during the film
Oh,
three
yeah.
to four times,
Yeah.
because to allow for people who are watching on other devices and like
Yeah.
on their phones, and double and triple screening and all these sorts of things. So we don't have a discussion very often about what we lose for what we gain,
Right.
or whether there is a way in which we can capture the idea of, hey, this is a bunch of films that might have some troubling themes in them. So if you're not in a good place to go and watch something that has troubling themes, just don't go and see these things at the moment. But if you're a person who's like, I want to go and like explore the world and be shocked and surprised, you don't want to be you don't want to know too much more, right? Because the very act of knowing what it is you're going to be shocked and surprised about takes away from the shock and surprise. So it's a very hard thing to get those two things in balance. I don't think that we necessarily should go back to a world where we're just throwing kids into, you know, Gallipoli and going, there you go, just deal with that. You know, I think Gallipoli's fine, right? Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
but
But
you know what I mean? Because we live in a world now where there are so many worse things than Gallipoli,
right.
you know, that younger people can be immediately exposed to. So,
Yeah. I do kind of wonder though, if you go and see a movie and something triggers you to such an extent, isn't that potentially something that is actually uh, possibly really handy and possibly a really good thing, because maybe if something triggers you like that and you engage with it, maybe then it'll send you on a path to maybe fix it or
Yeah,
find a
it
way to
can.
live with it.
Yeah, it can be.
Mm.
But I think
But if you're
it's
always
fair
being
to,
warned, then you're not going to these things, and therefore those things are never being engaged with properly, just as an idea, you know?
yeah, no, I mean, I think there's some truth to that, but I think that should be still more a choice for the person. That we
Right.
should have these things and then say encourage, hey, when you're in the right space,
Yeah.
because if you are that person who might, have a breakthrough or whatever from being triggered by something in that you have an emotional reaction to it, or something happens in you, or it throws you in a way that was unexpected, and you're like, oh, okay, I need to engage in that and whatever. That's great if
Mm.
you're in the space where you can then engage with that,
Mm.
have a think about it, go and do whatever it is you need to do to engage with it around it. It's not so great if you are catching that movie before you go to that, family reunion, and then all that big work thing or whatever, and you take that energy straight into that next thing,
Yeah.
and then everything falls apart, if you know what I mean. Like, I
Right.
do think that there is some, for someone like you whose job it is to engage in the world, so you're in a way always in that mode. You're going into things going, how am I engaging in this song, this album, this piece of work, this bit of writing? Part of what we get the opportunity to do with our jobs and our lives is to engage in ideas and how the world works and just think about it, like, so much. Whereas I think that a lot of people are constantly rushing from one thing to the other and have so many other things on their mind, that the idea that you could sit with a piece of art for a few days or weeks or months or whatever before you really work out what it's about is not. Now, could we be creating a society in which there is more space for people to engage in art in that way? Yes. And do I
Mm.
think that is of value to a society, for people to have more space to enjoy art like that, not to be looking at their phone, not for us to be, I mean, I think we've talked about this before. When we started making Gruen 18 years ago, was the age of, Twitter just and coming in, and the whole thing was TV shows having live tweeting on the bottom of the screens.
Mm.
And it was very zeitgeisty. And Andrew Dent, who was a very modern thinker and always looking to see what is going on out there in society and what we can use, was very determined that we would do, like, live tweeting on the bottom of the screens at Gruen. And my argument, and it was our first really big argument, but it was a big argument, was always, I just think we should first try to make something that people don't want to read something else while we're doing it.
Yeah.
And now that feels like both a good insight, but also such an old fashioned idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I just feel super naive. Like, I do believe it still,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah. Of
feels
course.
but it feels like the world does not believe what I believe. The
Well,
world has given into the idea that things will just be watched while people are also on their phone, rather than thinking, could we not just make some things that are so compelling that people don't want to look at their phone?
yeah, I guess maybe much like the environment, maybe we've hit a tipping point in that things have been reduced to such an extent that uh, you have to do trigger warnings, and people do have to warn each other because people, as a generalization, aren't as robust anymore to be able to um, engage with these kinds of things and feel comfortable with it. It's
But
interesting,
also it's about the trusting the people, right?
right?
So if I go to see Hannah Gadsby, and I'm going to bookmark Hannah Gadsby here because I think Hannah's just done something that's quite interesting in this space. But if I go to see Hannah Gadsby, and I don't need a trigger warning necessarily, right?
Right.
Because not going to see Hannah Gadsby means that you at least go into that experience. I think often it would be the opposite. People would be surprised that it's not as, big issues, and,
Mm, yeah.
like, Hannah isn't just Nanette. Hannah talks about all
Yeah,
sorts
she
of
she
different
has
and interesting.
multitudes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Right. So, but you kind of go to that experience thinking there might be something in this that is going to challenge me or provoke me or go into an area that might be, and then I think that's okay. And you're in safe hands. You
Mm,
know that they will have thought about it in a way that they've intellectualized it, they've thought it through. Whereas you go and see somebody else talking about those same topics, and
mm,
you're like, well, I don't trust this person and how they're engaging with these topics.
right.
Yeah, we've seen some of the most successful, particularly, straight male comedians in the world, the kind of manosphere, edgelord, you can't say anything style comedians dealing with a whole bunch of, and they would be making the arguments of like, oh, you shouldn't give trigger warnings because you can talk about anything. And then they might be making these like really ill considered, ill thought out, jokes that would be incredibly triggering to some people.
Mm,
If you're
yeah.
if you're a recent victim of a sexual assault and you go and sit in one of those audiences and everybody is hooting and hollering about, jokes about sexual assault, I do think that's the sort of thing you need a heads up about beforehand
Right.
so that
Yes.
you don't like stumble into one of those info. I mean, look, if you're going to, again, that's probably the wrong example because someone like that, you probably know that sort of material is going to be in it.
Yeah.
But it's somewhere in between those two things,
Yeah.
there is a world in which you could stumble into something where the person is not an expert in handling what they're about to cut one of those Japanese, fish that, if
The
you don't cut
fugu.
it in the if you
Yeah.
don't cut it in the right direction, it's the most delicious thing in the world if you cut it in the right direction.
Yeah.
But if you don't cut it in the right direction, it's deadly. There
Yeah.
are a lot of people who don't know how to cut it in the right direction
Yeah.
out there. And I do think that it can be what people don't know what they're stumbling into. So we live in this world where I think if we could trust the people who are going to, if everything was MASH,
Yes.
then we'd be fine. If everything was Doctor Who, then we'd be fine because the people who made MASH and Doctor Who just didn't kill off Adric or, characters in MASH or whatever. It was for a reason and a point, and they had earned the right to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But now people are doing that in the first 5 minutes to make people, keep watching the show or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like I don't trust the people that are in charge of making these decisions. It's the same thing with, all the worries that I have about social media and AI. It's less about the technology itself, and it's more about the fact that algorithms are programmed by people, and the people in charge of these things are not to be trusted. And that,
Yeah.
so Hannah Gadsby has released their latest album, Woof, as an audio. So it's very fun. They have a deal with Netflix, and Netflix get the first look on a special, but they didn't really want to give their latest special to Netflix, so they didn't make one. They just made an audio album, which means that
Hannah.
which I thought you would like a lot as an
Yeah.
artistic decision.
Yeah.
It is 80 or 90 minutes, which is great, which you can do in audio as well. You don't have to stick to that next Netflix 60. And
Yeah.
it is paced in a way that I think you would love. Like the first 20 minutes is really just like very relatable, solid, in Hannah's way, but still just great stand up.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, as it unfolds, more complex and still and silent at parts, and etc. Recorded not in a big theater, but in like one of the smaller runs, like a 300, 400 seater in New York still. But,
Yeah.
it's so lovely to listen to and so relaxed and so sparse, and you can appreciate their voice and the way that they put words together, etc. But they've also, Justin, and this is a response, I think, to the idea of not wanting something to be watched while somebody is on the phone. They've turned the first 20 minutes of it into something that you could not watch something else at the same time. So, along with Alec Morgan, the editor who edited Nanette, but has done a whole bunch of other really cool stuff as well, and Alex Hines, the comedian Alex Hines, who you might know out of Melbourne, who does Slug Girl and
Oh, yeah.
has done
Yeah.
a whole bunch of like really brilliant, inventive modern comedy. I saw them open for Auntie Donna recently. Really funny. And Hannah's spouse lady, Jenny Jeno. They have collaborated on what I can only Hannah's describing as a fever dream, but it's basically like it reminds me of a like if Monty Python were making something in the year 2026 where they've taken the first 20 minutes of that stand up from that show and use that as a narration to make a visual, like, that Hannah isn't in. Hannah's a sock puppet at the middle of it, but it's, all visual images,
Right.
basically like coloring out the jokes.
Right. Right.
And it is so inventive and compelling, but it demands your absolute undivided full attention. There is no way to watch it that isn't just, and it is provocative. And
Right.
in a way, it kind of needs a trigger warning, but I wouldn't even know what trigger warning to give it. I think maybe the trigger warning for most things is, how are you okay? Is this are you in an okay place?
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah. It should just be
know?
broad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's some stuff in this. Are you cool?
Yeah.
Like,
And if you are, then
yeah.
let's go.
If you are, whatever comes up, you're probably going to be okay dealing with.
Well,
But
then
if you're having
I'd almost
if
add
you're
that to
having a
anything.
wobbly day, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how are you?
Yeah.
This is a real, like, if you're having a wobbly one, this
Yeah.
just might not be for you.
Yeah.
Come back on Tuesday.
Yeah. Comes, you know what? That could be the new rating.
Yeah.
W
Yeah.
for wobbly.
Yeah. Yeah. You feeling a bit wobbly? Not
Yeah.
for you.
Not for you.
Yeah.
Can you remember the last time you experienced something where you were triggered, not in a bad way, but something came out of left field and took you by surprise and elicited a deeper emotion?
Yeah. I won't go into too much of the detail just because you'll understand very quickly when I'm talking about it, what it is. But I remember watching a comedian in a show talk about, like, just a story about her, like what he was telling as a funny story.
Mm.
And as someone who had been through a reasonably similar circumstance to what he was describing, I suddenly was like, that doesn't feel funny to me. You know, like
Yeah,
when somebody's,
right.
like when somebody's telling something and they're trying their best. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm projecting, but this is why. But they never would have in a million years put a trigger warning on their show. This is probably a very good example of the thing we were talking about earlier. If you're never knowing exactly what it is that's going to get you. They were just telling a story that to them was a story about a time they got in trouble for something, a particular thing within a particular relationship. But it was so familiar to me,
Yeah.
and familiar that they were in this mode of trying to work out a way to go, now this is funny and I'm cool with this, in a scenario where I reckon they probably didn't need to be cool with it if they didn't want to be.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't that funny.
Yeah.
And it was more that recognition of being in that moment rather than even the exact story but just and it triggered me very much.
Right.
But there's no world in which
that didn't even need a W. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Yeah. Well, I'm the first one that comes to mind for me was in the movie Creed.
Mm.
Have you seen Creed?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So you'll know the moment. It was a preview. So I essentially was just going because I followed MBJ since The Wire, and I liked Ryan Coogler's Fruitvale Station. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll go and see this. And of course, it's set in the Rocky universe. I was curious to see how it would be reinvented, and it gets down to the last fight. And Rocky wants to throw in the towel because he doesn't want to see what happened to his friend Apollo Creed happen to his son Adonis. And there's a point where Michael B. Jordan's looking Adonis is looking Rocky in the face, and he says, "You can't." And Rocky doesn't understand. Why can't I throw in the towel? And illegitimate Adonis says, "Because I got to prove I'm not a mistake."
Right.
And I was sitting in the cinema, and I went with our friend Tegan Higginbotham, and she said afterwards, she just heard me go, "Fuck."
Yeah.
But I have to be honest, that is my favorite scene in the film, and it was also probably a movie that I was really enjoying. That one moment elevated it to something profound.
I watched a special the other night on the recommendation of Tom Ballard. So last week, in 9 days, I recorded 40 hours of podcasts.
Mate, look, I'm just going to tell everyone who's listening, I looked at your schedule because we were going to catch up last week. And I think about halfway through the week, I just sent you a text message and said, I'm not even making a suggestion for you. We can catch up.
So Yeah, I did nine, well, eight TOEFOPs, one cricket podcast, one the briefing, and then I did 18 philosophies. So most of those are hour
18.
45. Yeah, 18.
18.
Three a day. It was a test match cricket of podcasting, but I've done now, I'm ahead of the whole tour. So
Right.
now I can go on tour without having, the only thing that we'll have to do regularly is my regular podcast, not the ones that can be.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was like when Neil Craig used to get the Adelaide Crows back in the 90s to train in the sand before the finals.
It honestly was one of the best experiences I've ever had in a creative sense
Yeah.
because to just be in that mode of conversation and almost to the point of breaking a few times,
Yeah.
but surrounded by friends, talking to all these brilliant people and having these lively and provocative conversations. And Tom and I had a really great conversation around like language and what was appropriate to use. Like he had a play that used a whole bunch of words and didn't use some words, and we were talking about why and what
Mm.
for and etc. And it's great. It's a really good conversation. But in that, he was talking about a comedian out of the UK called Alfie Brown, who
Hmm.
had a special where basically he was kind of the last cancelled comedian. And, my theory on cancelled comedians mostly is that it's a marketing ploy. And most of the
Mm.
comedians who are telling you that they're cancelled are the um, highest earning and most rewarded comedians in the entire world. So
Mm.
that there is a gap in the truth between whether they have actually been cancelled or not. I think mostly it's marketing. But in this one particular case with Alfie Brown, they he was a bit of a hip, younger, confident young Stuart Lee meets Russell Brand style of like good sense of his own self, I think, and
Hmm.
etc. But very skilled comedian on the rise, but very much part of that hip, Soho scene. He was the director that died. Uh, he was friends with a whole bunch of those guys, Alex Edelman, and the story
Hmm.
is told in the show. Um, but they found an old routine of his where he used the N word. Like his shtick is basically woke jokes in a non-woke manner.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
they have woke points, but not delivered in a woke way.
Yeah.
And there was an old routine of his where he's used the N word. And he got cancelled, genuinely cancelled. Like, his runs of shows got cancelled, his theatre things got pulled, like actually cancelled,
Right.
not the modern way. And there's a moment in it. It's good because I went into it pretty wary, like of him and of also, this idea of, oh, here we go, yet another I've been cancelled fucking show. But Tom had told me, like, you should watch it. And there's some pretty provocative jokes still in it, which I enjoyed. He didn't back away from making provocative jokes for a point, even in the thing. He showed as much as he told, which I liked. But the thing I like, there's a moment in the middle of it where I was just like, oh, this is like something. And again, just good knowing, and maybe I'm doing exactly what I don't want people to do. So if you're intrigued enough now by seeing this Alfie Brown special, maybe don't listen to what I'm going to say now. Have a watch of it and
Yeah.
come back to it, and maybe hopefully I've given people enough time to make their own decisions. But there was a moment in the middle of it where he says, and people think when you get cancelled like this, and I'm paraphrasing, but people think when you get cancelled like this, that's all the job offers go away. He said, but that's not right. He goes, I got thousands of job and media opportunities from every right wing podcast and every blah, blah, blah in the entire world.
Yeah.
Like he goes, everyone called me, blah, 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 Sky News, blah, blah, blah called me, or whatever the equivalent of, whatever their kind of Sky News After Dark, version,
Yeah.
et cetera, all called me. And he said, and I did not do any of them. And he said, yes, I do want a pat on the back for that. and I
That's
was
funny.
like, and I was like, that is funny.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, fair. Like
Yeah.
I get that. And that's honest. And that's so even in something like that where you go into it knowing that there's a bit of, okay, I know kind of what is this about. It's going to be a bit provocative. There's going to be discussions. You're still never sure which bit of it is actually going. I didn't go in knowing that was the bit that was going to get me because we think about it all the time, right? We joke
Yeah.
about it even, the right wing pivot. or the person who suddenly becomes religious and you're like, oh, what's about to come out?
Yeah.
Like, or the two combined,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see somebody who was presented with that opportunity and that crossword, and he goes, he said, oh, that's what he said. He goes, I do want a pat on the back about that. And again, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not, but he just was, he goes, because I'm really good at this. Like,
Yeah.
imagine if they had someone who's as good as me. And
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm like, actually, you've kind of earned the
Yeah.
right to make that point,
Yeah.
like where you're at. So
Where did you see
anyway,
that?
it's on YouTube.
Right.
I don't think anyone's touching his. I got the impression, even in the way that's been filmed, that he still kind of is. I mean, I think this will be redemptive for him, or at least partly redemptive for him, because
Right.
he apologizes in it, and he apologized at the time,
Yeah.
and he has apologized since, and he apologizes in this. It isn't a defense of um, the bit.
Yeah.
It's a defense of him a bit and his place in the world and what he's trying to do, but not like which I liked as well. He really
Mm.
does genuine, and he's definitely going the harder route.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it's a really yeah.
the easier route is to take those jobs
Yes,
and
that's
take
right.
those other
Yeah,
opportunities. And
it could be incredibly lucrative, and you can see how with the slightest of pivots, because his material is in that zone anyway, but it's on the right side.
yeah.
Whereas it could have been so easily tweaked to
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. And yeah. And once again, that is something that should come with the W. I like the wobbly.
yeah, it's got a very Justin Hamilton title too. I'm going to see if I can Google what
Oh, okay.
the title is.
Oh.
I think Alfie Brown, not Alfie title. That won't help me with anything. um, uh, okay, it's called The Last Cancelled Comedian, but uh, it's got a subtitle, I think. Oh,
I
all right.
Is it coming up?
Nah.
Oh,
Anyway,
oh, oh,
it's worth people saying. The Last Cancelled Comedian is the title that comes up, but it's got a something blah blah blah, ruminations on the art of forgiveness or something, like,
right.
it's got
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something.
I recently found out that I'm not going to mention who these people are out of respect for them, but two comedians that I wasn't particularly close with, not in any bad way, but just not in my sphere of friendship or people that I ever hung out with. And I heard recently that both of them are now Uber delivery drivers,
Oh,
and
yeah, okay.
and one of them in particular, there seems to be a little bit of glee about it, and I don't want to
Glee that this person is now.
like. It's kind of funny that this person, and
Yeah, all right.
uh, I have to be honest. It I wouldn't say it sent me into a spiral, but it bummed me out because I think it was more a synecdoche to the greater issues of what's happening in the industry. Because, to be honest, I think it's better when, even though I wasn't necessarily a fan of these people's types of comedy, uh, it was better when they could make a living for their audience. And and it also sent me down a mild slide into worry because, man, I don't even have a license.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't go to
it's
Uber.
but also these poor people who have jumped from one notoriously unreliable way to make a living to another one,
Another one.
dangerous, unregulated.
Yeah.
I mean,
At the whims of your
it's
audience.
I don't understand. And look, maybe there were times in my life, particularly when I was younger, that in moments of shit talking with your friends, that you might express some emotion like that about something. But
Mm.
oh God, like now it depresses me, that idea.
Yes. Yes.
that you would take glee in anyone's, like, unless they are a terrible person. But what we've really found in the entertainment industry is terrible people are eternally rewarded. They're never the ones that this happens to.
No.
If I heard that Kyle and Jackie O were now delivering Uber Eats, I'd be like, okay, well, that feels actually right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one I'm pretty comfortable with. And I'll join in on the shit
Yeah.
canning. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, these people were, you know, uh, minor players, and it's, I don't know, it just feels, it just didn't sit right with me, and I've thought about it quite a bit over the weekend.
Well, also, I think that in comedy, anytime that we celebrate somebody not succeeding,
Mm,
we are inviting, like, I don't know, like, I don't believe in karma in the sense of like the practical applications of karma, but
no,
in the general vibes of you get back what you put out, or like at least that's a good way to live your life, regardless of whether that is true. I mean, there's plenty of arguments that that is absolutely not true. You often put out, like, absolutely good stuff and get fucking like punched in the face constantly by just life. Like, that's
yeah.
that's the truth. But I
But but it is like if you're emotionally putting out
Mm.
better vibes, then at least when you get punched in the mouth, I don't know. I think you're just in a better place to deal with it.
Well, I just think we have some choice around how we choose to live our own existence,
Mm.
and very little effect on anything else most of the time, other than a few direct consequences. And so I think that if you could just concentrate a little bit more on that and not worry so much about what other people are up to. Like, I just hope everyone, comedian or otherwise, is able to afford to buy food and have somewhere to live. And
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to celebrate. And these poor, I mean, even the fact that somebody is forced into delivery driving as a living, I think is horrible, because you see how these delivery drivers are, you know, overworked, completely overworked and underpaid, and having to, you know, either like drive on footpaths and stuff and piss everybody off, or drive on the road. The amount of times I've seen someone on like a delivery bike be hit by a car recently
Oh,
is
yeah.
stunning to me. And it terrifies me as a driver, even.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
I am so overly alert now when I am driving, like to the point of paranoia, because all I have this nightmare is there's some, like, delivery driver's going to quickly try to, because you can't rely on the traditional rules of driving on the road anymore. You have to have this heightened awareness that people can just come out of anywhere at any time.
I performed with a comedian on the weekend. I'm blanking on his name, so apologies to him. But he has a great.
Marty Fields,
No,
Maury Fields,
it's Murray Fields. It's making a comeback. Uh,
Shane Jacobson,
much
Dame
younger.
Sybil Thorndike,
Oh, I've seen his films.
Jerry Connolly.
Yeah, Jerry Connolly. Okay. He has a joke about he lives in the country and he finds it much more stressful driving in the city because and he equates delivery drivers to being in the country with kangaroos, but so many more
Yes.
of them.
I mean, they come out of nowhere,
Yeah,
absolutely unreliable.
yeah,
You are encouraged, like a kangaroo, that you're not allowed to brake. You've got to
yeah,
accelerate through.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
more dangerous to swerve.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's funny that you bring that up because in where I live in Surrey Hills, the amount of discarded cases, the big box cases that they have on their
Mm.
backs, the amount of discarded ones that I see on a regular basis is genuinely shocking. And I just get the impression that they
Mm.
just must have
They
a
just go,
point where they go,
fuck
fuck
this
this.
shit.
And they just hurl it and get on their scooter and drive off into the sunset.
We have allowed, and I mean, it's a pattern that repeats itself so often recently, but we allow something to come in, disrupt everything, promise the world,
Yeah,
and then, as soon as they have market dominance, ramp up the prices, make the conditions awful for everybody,
yeah,
and leave us with a situation that isn't better than what we had before. Like it has the appearance of being better, but nothing works the way that we were promised it was going to work. So we've just overcomplicated things and taken out a safety net for people. And we now have constructed a world in which people have to have 3 or 4 jobs. They have to have like 2 side hustles to just survive in society. It's fucking, yeah,
It's
I mean,
crazy.
yes, you know what? Society needs a trigger warning.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little wobbly.
Wobbly. And we already have a title for this show, so that is a healthy thing. I should let you go, but this is going to come up this week at
Okay.
8 a.m. as we record it. What do you have coming up? What's the update on specifically your Adelaide Fringe run?
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I'll give you a couple of things, which is firstly, Perth starts next week. So Tuesday week. Well, not like like a week from today, basically. So if people want to come and see my show, what you're talking about, Will, in Perth at the Perth Fringe, I believe like opening night is sold out, but that first week as the festival kicks off, that tickets are pretty much gone for the rest of it, but like there's a few available in that first week. So, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, please come along and see what you're talking about. Well, then after that, Adelaide Fringe, which is selling about how Adelaide always sells. The world's look. Here's what I would say. I might have to rebuild it as like the new Adelaide Writers Festival because I am a writer. I've written books. I've written
Yeah,
3 books.
yeah,
So there's no Writers Festival anymore.
it's you.
And a lot of that Writers Festival, they are my ABC demo. So come to the writer room and see what you're talking about,
Guess
Will.
what? You've got heaps of free time.
I mean, admittedly, I am doing an improvised show, so I have not written it, but you get to see me write it on. So it
It,
is a writers' festival because
it's
you
the
get to see
process.
someone write on stage.
Yeah,
It's very good. You should come and
yeah.
see that. Um, and then Canberra and Melbourne and Brisbane after that, comedy.com.au.
All right, that's great. All right, we'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah.
Thank you to Will for catching up with me this morning. Wobbly. That feels like a good way to give people a heads up. I guess part of the point that I didn't quite get to with Will, and this is not a surprise, there's so many times where you have ideas, and because you're constantly building with Will, you go in all sorts of directions. But I do kind of worry about kids not being exposed to different emotions in entertainment. I think there is. Uh, I understand the desire to protect, and I also understand the desire to, uh, you know, take into account that the world is full of terrible things. And so art and entertainment should be something that is a relief. But my argument is that art has been reduced to nothing but entertainment for a lot of people, and uh, kids on iPads just watching things that flash and beep and move and don't really engage on a deeper level is a problem. And I do believe that exposing them to different emotional responses is a way of them understanding them and engaging with them. I remember talking to a friend of mine who had read his daughter the first, I think it's Harry Potter books, and maybe the fourth one. I've never read the Harry Potter novels, so I'm not entirely sure if this is correct. But I think in the fourth one, there's a few major characters that die or something like that. And she's 11, and he was like, I don't know if she should engage with this. And my idea was, if you're reading them together, this is exactly the time to engage with it. She'll she'll be in a safe space to have these sad feelings, and you can discuss them and you can understand them. And she's going to have to experience these feelings at some point in the future. So why not experience them now? And, you know, once upon a time, especially when we were younger, parents would throw us in the deep end, and you would have to learn to swim for yourself, and that could cause all sorts of trouble as well. But I feel like the pendulum has swung way too far in the opposite direction, and uh, you sometimes I feel like there are people who are keen to give their children a label rather than just maybe engage with them. And maybe they aren't really coming under the umbrella of a label. Maybe they're just not engaging with emotional responses at a young enough age. So they seem a little bit distant to them as they get older. Anyway, that's my fear. That's my fear for the younger generation. People often say, you don't have kids, like, so you don't know. And it's like, yeah, but I hate to tell you this, I was a kid. And it doesn't mean just because I don't have children, I don't worry about children. And I don't worry about generations as they get older, mainly uh, for two reasons. One is it's healthy for them to be well-rounded people so they can deal with all aspects of life. And two, man, I'm going to be old one day, like properly old, and I need these young people to fucking have some empathy. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be old man Hamo shitting himself in a corner and a whole generation of people being so divorced from any emotional responses they look and just go, oh, number 272 who lives here seems to have soiled themselves. Go and get the hose. Like, do you know what I mean? I need them to be able to engage. It's it's mostly having empathy for new generations, and it's also planning for when I'm an old man and I need help just sitting up, wiping my bum. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because we just didn't quite get to that point, which is something that's been playing on my mind for quite a bit. And interestingly, if you've seen Hamnet, let me know. I'd be curious to know what you thought. Funnily enough, the 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 parts that people have said are really sad. I thought it's not that I didn't think they were sad, but they didn't uh, hit me as hard as a certain point in the film, which is probably about the midpoint, which is ironically less about death and more about life. And if you've seen Hamnet, I'm guessing you can work out which part of the movie I mean. But I found that part really emotional. I found that really hit me in a way that uh, kind of took my breath away. And I guess the rest of it, while I found it sad to a certain extent, it was an emotion, I guess, that I feel comfortable with because I've engaged with it, unfortunately, many times. So uh, it was something that I recognized. So it didn't sideswipe me. But anyway, there's no right or wrong, and uh, my favorite quote from last year is from the philosopher Sabrina Carpenter, which is, your opinion's valid, my opinion's valid. What's for dinner? So that's how I'm going to live 2026. I reckon I'll probably use that many times over the course of this year. Okay. As I said, the newsletter's coming out next Tuesday, so that will be the 27th. So if you'd like to sign up, head to justinhamilton.com.au and you'll find the page. It's right on the front and you can sign up. And as I said, I promise it won't be coming out too often. Bi-weekly, I think, will be absolutely fine. And it'll give you an update of what's happening at Patreon with bonus podcasts, what's happening over at Substack if you prefer my writing, and over at YouTube with live shows and stuff like that that have been uploaded there. Okay. This is the middle of the week, so I hope it's been a good one so far. And with the weekend coming up, I'm going to go and see Nick Cave with Tom Gleeson. So I have something very much to look forward to, and I hope you do too. All right, until then.